Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Atif Siddiqi on the line, and he's founder and CEO over at Branch. Atif, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, Atif, so I'm excited to get into today's topic. So financial wellness benefits for working Americans. I know there's a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives out there that are always thinking about different ways to add value and benefits for their employees. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, just to give the audience a little bit more of a background, tell us a little bit more about your company, Branch, please.
Sure. Branch is a challenger bank that partners with employers to really help working Americans grow financially. We're focused on helping people that really live paycheck to paycheck. Typically, these are like hourly employees. And, it's I think even more so now, these employees are facing some financial hardship, and we provide them a mobile-first solution to deal with, free financial services. So that includes fee-free checking accounts, access to wages that they've already earned, some money management and budgeting tools to help them grow.
No, I love it, and I think it's a great take on helping employers and employees both. Just to use a word there, and I like this word, and I don't want to, or phrase, and I don't want to assume that the audience knows kind of this category, even though many may have heard of it. But I would like your take on it. So you use that word challenger bank. I mean, how do you kind of define that, or how do you position that?
Yeah, Challenger Bank really is a digital-first bank that, we have no retail locations, and we can provide really the full suite of banking services to our end users. And so this means, again, a free checking account with no overdraft fees, no monthly minimums, free ATMs, and so they can really get the whole banking experience in a digital-first format.
Fantastic, and I just wanted to bring that out there because I'm nothing against the legacy banks, but I love this whole movement of challenger banks and the nimbleness, because I found that something like that, like free checking or all these other things, there's people out there paying fees or doing things that maybe they don't have to. They just don't even know this exists. So I'm really excited to bring this benefit out to my audience. And let's go a little bit further to today's topic. So you mentioned it, but let's go further. So financial wellness benefits for working Americans. I mean, where do you want to start with this one? Because it's a big deal what you're doing over at Branch.
Yeah, I think to start, maybe taking a step back and to kind of let your audience know why we exist and where the gaps are in current financial benefits offered by employers, right? So when you think about financial wellness benefits employers currently offer, it's typically more geared towards longer-term objectives, 401ks, HSAs. And what we found that there's this huge gap, especially with a demographic of employees that may be living paycheck to paycheck. They're more focused on sort of these shorter term objectives. The way we've approached the ability to fill that gap really is by helping them first reduce the fees that they're paying potentially to other institutions, getting them cash that they've already earned in their hands, so that they are not dealing with some degree of income volatility. And again, taking on more fees either due to like late payments, maybe more predatory measures like a payday loan. So, and ultimately the goal, for us at Branch is like, how do we, by reducing fees, giving them access to cash flow, really help them grow their account balance over time and better manage their money over time with Branch.
That's a big deal. And let's go. Not all employers know this, so I want to spend a little bit more time on it. So some employers listening to this may not know that their employees, especially hourly employees, are in these types of situations because it's not something that somebody volunteers, right? But not necessarily. Talk a little bit more about kind of how the predatory side of, the payday loan and this and that, all these, like how that works, because for the employers listening, you may not be in that situation, but if you think about your employees, maybe this may be a big deal and a big way to help them. So, but first, maybe that little education piece on how the predatory side of this world works.
Definitely. I mean, it is living paycheck to paycheck. 80% of Americans roughly now live paycheck to paycheck. Specifically with regards to hourly employees, there's three key challenges they face. One is they deal with a high degree of income volatility. So their income fluctuates week to week based on, the hours they get. The second is that they really have little or no access to credit. And that's really because maybe they're a new employee that's just joining the workforce and they haven't been scored. They're an immigrant that came to this country when it's their early job, or even people with damaged credit that fell out of the system. And the third is that they have little or no savings, right? And so what we found is that, one short-term unexpected expense that comes off really can put them into a difficult financial situation that they need access to capital, and some of those access to capital come with very predatory terms like payday loans with extremely high interest rates. We looked at, since we have a relationship with the employer, we know when the employee showed up to work, we know how much they made. And so really we are giving these employees access to money that they've already earned ahead of their paycheck at no cost to the employer or the employee. And I can dive in a little how we make money, but it's been a great solution again, so that, they're not in this cycle of a debt or incurring more fees over time.
And I mean, when we talk percentage, and and this can change from time to time, but when we talk about percentages on the predatory side, I mean, we're talking it could be 20%, it could be 30%. Am I wrong on that? Like they can be really high. I've heard some crazy numbers in the past. Am I right or am I off on that?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they even go higher if you look at, how that percentage sort of compounds over time if they fail to miss a payment or whatnot. So yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation, and it's not just the loans. To be honest, it's also this demographic has really come to accept an overdraft fee is like a normal part of everyday life. They're getting 1 to 3 overdrafts a month, and that's just from the current status quo of banking institutions. So we we're looking for ways that we can help, again, this demographic not have to go through that.
That's great. And so let's go a little bit further into kind of how this works from the employer side. So meaning I know there's a lot of employers listening to this right now that are like, wow, this is an extra benefit. It may cost me little to nothing to offer it to my employees. It's going to help them. It's going to help them. Somebody's car breaks down, right? Now they have an unexpected $400 or $500 expense. Maybe they were already a little strapped on cash for whatever reason, and now they have to go do a payday loan or something, and they're in the 30% or whatever it is interest rate. So that little $400 or $500 problem that maybe they already have the salary, they just, they have to get to work next week, right? But they need the car fixed this week, right? So now that little thing could throw off, months for them to pay that back and to pay back that interest and everything else. So talk about from the employer side, what that looks like to get a benefit like this out to their employees.
Yeah. Again, it's important to note this is free to both employers and employees. And typically, when working with employers, we need to know a couple of key pieces of information. One, is the employee, employed at the place of employment? So we get like a employee roster. from the employer to verify employment. The other is, when did the employee show up to work? So when did they clock in and out? And so those are two key pieces of information. And I will say employers are also turning to branch as also a way to help bank employees. So, most of the industries we work in, with retail, restaurant, there's a large percentage of employees that are still receiving paper checks. And, if you think about this, one delay in a paper check could be the difference between an employee's utilities getting shut off or not. And so we're also able to help bank these employees with our, fee-free checking account, and we provide them a physical debit card if they would like to use it. And it helps, employers reduce costs there too on just sending out these checks and really making a difference for employees.
Man, I love what you're doing. You're really creating a lot of win-win situations, or win-win-win. I mean, your company's obviously winning for provide service. The employees are winning because they're, if they're strapped for cash, or like you said, need a little bit of help on the banking side of things. Now they have that covered, and then for the employer, it's not even costing them anything. You're making it too easy for them, Atif. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, and I will say, in addition to helping out on the saving costs with the not sending paper checks, employers are really turning to branch as a way to help them attract and retain talent, right? So most of the industries we work when they have a fairly high degree of turnover, 50 to 100% annually, and so anything they can do to stop that sort of continual churn by again providing benefits that their employees love to use really goes a long way.
Fantastic. Well, Atif, so if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on working with Branch, whether it's somebody that owns a business owner, entrepreneur, executive out there, somebody that's thinking about, well, does this make sense for their clients, or an employee that's listening that's saying, hey, I wish my employer had it. I'm going to have them listen to this. I'm going to let my employer hear this episode so they can find out why they need to sign up so they get the benefit. I mean, two different ways to look at that one. What's the best way for people to follow up, Atif?
The best way is to contact us via our website. It's branchapp.com. If you'd like to, we're pretty active on Twitter as well. So if you'd like to reach out to us directly, it's also @branch on Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, Atif, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing over at Branch, really to help working, Americans with their financial wellness benefits and to help employers retain and attract talent. I mean, all great stuff there. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. Let's keep the conversation going over in the YouTube community. And Atif, thanks again for coming on the show.
Hey, once again, thanks for having me on.